When Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin sit down together, the world doesn't just watch it, holds its breath. But to understand what might happen next, you have to look at every handshake, every stare, and every high-stakes meeting Putin has had with U.S. leaders before. Because history has a way of repeating itself, especially in the game of power. Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin, two names that spark headlines, debates, and more than a little controversy. When these two leaders meet, the stakes aren't just high, they're global. But this isn't the first time Putin has faced an American president across the table. From George W. Bush's famous "I saw his soul" remark, to Barack Obama's icy standoffs, and Trump's own headline, "Making First Summit," each encounter tells a story of power, trust, and rivalry. Today, we're diving into the history behind these meetings to understand what's at play and why the next handshake could change the world. In the world of international politics, there are moments when two leaders meet that shape headlines, drive speculation, and sometimes even change the course of history. The Trump-Putin summit is one of those moments, an encounter that has drawn attention not just because of the issues at stake, but because of the personalities involved. To fully understand its significance, it's worth looking back at Vladimir Putin's history of meetings with past U.S. presidents. That history is a mixture of diplomacy, tension, and calculated moves on both sides. Vladimir Putin's relationship with U.S. leaders began in the early 2000s, shortly after he rose to power in Russia. His first major interaction with an American president came in 2001 with George W. Bush. It was at their very first meeting in Slovenia, where Bush famously remarked that he had looked into Putin's eyes and got a sense of his soul. That moment was symbolic of the initial optimism between the two nations after the Cold War. But that optimism would fade over time as disputes over NATO expansion, the Iraq War, and Russia's increasingly assertive foreign policy began to strain relations. Bush's later years in office saw a far more guarded and suspicious approach toward Putin. Then came Barack Obama, whose presidency began with what was called a reset in U.S.-Russia relations. In 2009, then President Obama and Russian President Dmitry Medvedev, with Putin still holding power behind the scenes, worked on cooperation in areas like arms control and nuclear security. When Putin returned to the presidency in 2012, the tone shifted again. Their interactions became marked by visible tension, especially over issues like Russia's stance on Syria, the annexation of Crimea in 2014, and accusations of human rights abuses. One of the most striking moments was at the G20 summit in 2013, when Putin and Obama were photographed in a chilly, almost confrontational exchange, body language telling a story that words did not. Before Donald Trump took office, U.S.-Russia relations were at one of their lowest points since the Cold War. The U.S. had imposed sanctions on Russia, expelled diplomats, and suspended certain lines of communication. Yet, the 2018 Helsinki summit between Trump and Putin was anticipated with both hope and skepticism. Supporters saw a chance for the two leaders to bridge divides, while critics feared it could signal a softer U.S. stance toward Moscow. The Helsinki meeting was unlike those of Putin's past with American presidents. Trump's tone toward Putin was notably warmer, and the press conference afterward sparked intense debate in the United States. Many observers were surprised when Trump appeared to give weight to Putin's denials of Russian interference in the 2016 U.S. election, rather than siding with U.S. intelligence agencies. For some, this was a breakthrough in diplomacy. For others, it was a dangerous concession. That moment underscored how dramatically different Trump's approach to Putin was compared to his predecessors. Putin's strategy in meetings with U.S. leaders has often been to project patience and confidence, letting the other side do the talking while he calculates his responses. He has a history of using these encounters to signal strength both to domestic audiences in Russia and to the international community. With Bush, he projected partnership early on. With Obama, he showed defiance. With Trump, he found a counterpart who seemed more open to personal rapport than policy confrontation. It's also important to recognize that each of these meetings has been influenced by the political climate at the time. The early 2000s were marked by a U.S. focus on the war on terror, giving Putin room to maneuver in his own sphere of influence. The Obama years saw growing global challenges, including conflicts in Ukraine and Syria, which brought the U.S. and Russia into direct policy clashes. The Trump era introduced a new dynamic, less predictable, more personality-driven, and highly scrutinized in the media. The upcoming Trump-Putin summit builds on this complex history. It will be measured against decades of encounters that have been alternately hopeful and hostile. Observers will be watching closely for signs, whether in body language, tone, or specific agreements that could indicate where the relationship is headed. Will it resemble the early optimism of Bush's first meeting, the cautious engagement of Obama's reset, or will it follow the unconventional, highly personalized style that marked Trump's first face-to-face with Putin? Putin's history with U.S. presidents is more than a series of photo ops. It's a masterclass in political maneuvering. Every smile, every pause, every word spoken in front of the cameras has been calculated for maximum impact. As Trump and Putin prepare for their next summit, the question isn't just what they'll say, it's what they'll signal to each other and to the world. History may not always repeat itself, but in geopolitics, it often rhymes. And the next chapter in the Trump-Putin story is about to be written.